So welcome everybody. Today's class is dedicated to Garudasana, eagle pose. So Garuda in the Indian mythology is the giant eagle that Vishnu, the god Vishnu, rides on. And Vishnu is the energy that is the sustaining, the preserving energy. So whenever there's like that moment when you think that your life is in peril or that you don't know how you're going to get through, Vishnu is the energy that we call on. Right? Because that's the energy that gets us over that gap of I don't know if I can do it. Oh, okay, yes, I can. I'm not sure I'm going to make it through this. Oh, okay, here I go. Right? So it's a lot of that energy that we associate with faith. It's a lot of that energy that we associate with the unknown that is beyond us but supporting us. And so Garuda in some ways is that, right? It's the wings that carry us. It's the wings that allow us to be able to get through that vastness that is being and arrive somewhere, right? So when you're in that moment when you're like, I'm not entirely sure what to do or how to get there, Garuda, being the vehicle of Vishnu, is that energy, right? So the eagle pose is part of what we, how to embody that is partially how we embody that. But it's a pose that requires you, so you think of the eagle as having the wings spread, right, in flight. But the eagle pose is actually like the eagle has the wings wrapped, right? So it's the eagle that's in, stationary. So it's a wrapping of the body. It's a spiraling of the body. So it's taking all of this energy that maybe has gone out into the world and has been dispersed and drawing it back in towards the center, right? So it's bringing you back to that core center of you, the core energy of you, right? So all of that we look for through the eagle or through Vishnu, that preserving, that conserving, that saving energy is something that you generate from inside. The eagle pose, as we practice it, is like you're drawing yourself back into that center. So let the eyes close, because I do think it's important. Again, these classes are designed to help you connect to the attitude of the pose as much as the physiology of the pose. So for the moment, I want you to tap into this sense that there's an inner reservoir of strength. There's an inner reservoir of faith. There's an inner reservoir of whatever name you can give to that energy that sustains you. Right? And there's so many stories about how the nectar of immortality comes to us from some source outside, and it does because we're connected to that outside source. But that same source exists in you already. And if you're waiting for something outside to come carry you, you might wait for a long time. But tapping into it internally, it's instantaneous. So there's a reservoir inside of you, and maybe it feels like the pelvis, maybe it feels like the heart, maybe it feels like somewhere else. The big places for the eagle pose is we work through the legs, the thighs, to open the lower back. And we work through the arms in order to release the upper back and the chest. So one more deep breath, that you are this reservoir of strength, tranquility, the saving energy of yourself, the saving energy of the world, whatever name you give to that. Every breath is it's circulating through you. And then bring the hands together in front of the heart center, palm to palm. We'll open with the sound of Om, deep breath in. And let the eyes float open. Nice, you guys. You can release your hands, please. Then come forward onto hands and knees. I'm going to start with just a little bit of cat-cow to move the spine, because again, eagle is a big stretch for the length of the spine. That's a big thing that happens here. So start with cat-cow, inhaling, getting long through your spine, lifting the heart up through the arms. That's what I want you to imagine, is the back of your heart is rising up from between your shoulder blades, all the way up between the arms. And then as you exhale, you're pulling that center back again. So the front of the chest gets rounded so that the back body can expand. And then continue like that, inhaling, reaching forward, getting broad through the front of your pelvis, getting broad through the open chest, and then exhale, curl in again, rounding, getting broad through the back body. Good, so that's the upper spine and the lower spine both. Nice. Good. Then the next time you come into that rounded position, the exhale, you're into cat, so your back is rounded, ribs up towards the sky. I want you to stay there, and I want you to concentrate on your hip points, the front of your pelvis. I want you to try and narrow those hip points towards each other, right? So it's a weird concept, but I want you to feel like you're squeezing the two sides of the front of your pelvis towards each other and send your inner thighs rolling back. So it's like everything is trying to roll in towards that midline. Good. And then lengthen the spine again. Inhale the breath up, inhale the chest up. Good, maybe let that squeezing go. And then exhale, curl in again, round, and pause at the top of that rounding. Same thing, squeeze those hip points towards each other, inner thighs shoot way back. And then stay rounded, start to press your hips back towards your heels in this position. So press your hips back, but keep rotating or squeezing those hip points towards each other and keep walking back. As you walk back, you're gonna feel, right, your pelvis gets to widen a little bit. Good, so walk back, walk back, walk back. And then start to walk your hands forward. So your hips are coming towards your heels, dropping towards your heels like you're coming into Virasana or a modified child's pose. And then walk your hands forward. Yeah, so your arms are extended, and then press down through your hands, pull your chest forward, lengthen. Good, drag back on the hands to pull your chest forward and push your butt back. Good, but narrow those hip points in. Nice. Good, you guys. And then bring your hips all the way back to your heels. Try to keep the knees facing straight ahead if you can. So it's a little different version of child's pose instead of having the knees wide. Good. Yeah, and if your hips don't meet your heels in this position, that's fine. But what we're working with here is that Garudasana starts with a pelvis where everything is straight ahead, and it works internal rotation of the legs. So that concept of I'm drawing my hip points towards each other and I'm rotating my thighs inward from the effort of my pelvis, not just because I'm going to lock my legs together, is super important. So this position with your knees facing straight ahead, this starts to create that internal rotation automatically. That's why we're doing it. Good. And then walk yourself back up, please. Nice. Maybe scoot your knees towards each other just a little bit more, widen your feet, sit all the way back to Virasana. So between your heels, if you need a block underneath your feet, go ahead and do that. But the knees are pointing straight ahead, tops of the feet are flat to the floor. So Kristen, your feet are a little too wide. Bring them in a little closer towards your hips. Yeah, there you go. So the knees should be pointing straight ahead from your hips. Good, tops of the feet flat. But in theory, you should be able to be sitting between your heels as long as the legs have the ability to flex that way. Good. Walk your fingertips back behind you, please. Yep. So you're leaning back onto your hands, keeping your shins pressing down, keeping your thighs rooted down. Walk yourself back, 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 back. Maybe you can come down onto your forearms. If you're on a block and coming down to your forearms is possible, that's as far as you're going to go if you still need the block there. If you don't have a block and you're able to come all the way down, again, it's early in the practice, so be, conscious of how your knees feel here. But go back as far as you'd like, but keep pushing down into your shins and have that sense that you are drawing your inner thighs down to the floor and you are narrowing those front hip points. Again, it's a weird sensation. And if you still are not quite sure if you're doing that, just keep it in your mind that you're trying to bring those bony parts of your front of your pelvis towards each other. Good. One more breath, leaning back, pressing into your shins, pressing into the hands or the forearms. Good. And then walk yourself all the way back up. Nice job. Bring your hands forward, come up to hands and knees. Come back downward facing dog. It'll feel fantastic after being on having your knees bent like that. Good. And then pedal your feet, please, alternating, bending one knee, then the other. Good. And then steady your heels, reaching both heels towards the floor. Again, they don't have to touch, but you're sending the thighs back and letting the heels move towards the floor. And then take your right leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. So with the hip lifted, bend your knee for a moment, kick your heel in towards your butt, and then press your heel up towards the ceiling so that you get a little bit more lift through the front of your thigh. Good. And then straighten the leg again from there. Don't let it drop in space. Draw your low belly in. Keep lifting that inner thigh. Good. Now, keeping the leg straight, stack the right hip on top of the left. So you turn your toes out to the side. Keep equal weight on your hands. And pull those toes, the right toes, forward slightly. So you're really doing the opening through your hip. Good. Your left heel is pulling in towards the midline of your mat. Nice, you guys. One more breath. Reach out through that thigh. Kick the thigh a little higher. Beautiful. And then scoop your belly. Turn those toes back to the floor, standing split. Again, understanding the rotation of your pelvis is huge for eagle. And then step that foot forward between the hands. Nice job. Good. Inhale the arms up to the sky, high lunge. Nice. And you're going to cross your wrists overhead. So not your whole arm, but just your wrists crossed in front of each other. Turn your palms towards each other. So the wrists are crossed and the palms face each other. You're pushing the palms against each other and widening your elbows. So bend your elbows wide, pressing the palms together, lift your chest. As you lift your chest, pull those armpits down towards your hips, and then feel like you're lifting your hips up to your armpits. Good. So again, there's this feeling in eagle that there's a condensing, there's a drawing in towards the center of the body, not just from the extremities, but through that whole core. Good. So you want to feel the relationship between your upper body and your lower body. One more breath. Pull those arms back just a little bit further so your chest gets wide. Beautiful. And then release the hands. Inhale the arms around and up. Good. And then exhale, bow forward, hands to the floor. Good. Left hand plants right arm to the sky, spinal twist. Good. And I want you to start to make some arm circles here. So just circle the arm. So it can come forward, it can come back, whichever way you'd like it to. But again, we're rotating the arm to create a little bit of space, a little bit of lubrication in the shoulder. Good. Nice, you guys. And then bring it all the way back up to center, straight up to the sky. Bend the elbow back and make a little claw with your hand. So it feels like as you pull back through that elbow, through that armpit, that you open your chest to the sky even more. And you dig that elbow down almost like you're pulling on a weight, right? So you're pulling that elbow towards the right rib cage and opening the chest wide. Good. And then release that hand to the floor, please. Nice job. Drop the back knee. I know. Straighten the, move your left hip back first so that you have that left hip on top of your knee. Take your right leg forward to straight Ardha Hanumanasana. Good. The big stretches of eagle pose, so the things that are going to be working or that's getting a lot of stretch is a lot of outer hip and IT band. So eagle pose is a great pose if the outer hip and thigh tends to be very tight. That being said, you have to be able to work internal rotation for it to be effective. Good. And we're balancing on one foot while we're doing that, right? So that also makes it a little bit challenging to really focus on just the rotation. So it's nice to maybe warm up that outer hip and thigh. Dig your heel down, drag back, walk your hands forward a little bit more. Tilt your pelvis so the front of your pelvis moves forward. Your tailbone is going to move back and up. Good. And then what is your chest doing? Can you widen your chest here? Yeah, of course you can. Nice, Lydia. There you go. Beautiful. Again, when the effort is big, do you contract or do you stay in that state that is open but focused? That's eagle. It's about opening, but it's also about focus. Walk yourself back in, please. Good. Drag that heel back, come back, downward facing dog. Come into a lunge first, step back to down dog. Good. Nice, you guys. Slide forward to plank pose. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Yep, all the way down. Bend both knees, kick your heels in towards your butt. So again, we're working here with tracking the knee in line with the hip and the heels in line with the knee. So the knees are going to stay on the floor. Reach back, right hand for right ankle, left hand for left ankle. Good. Don't let your knees splay outward. You want to keep them straight back behind your hips. Good. If you can't reach your heels, calliope, just keep your hands on the ground like you would for cobra, but maybe move your hands a little bit wider so you're in like a wide-armed cobra. Good. If you're holding your feet, you're keeping your thighs on the ground. Draw your heels down towards the center of your butt cheeks. Good. Yeah. And the front of your pelvis, again, is drawing forward and up. Thighs stay rooted. Legs stay on the ground. Bend your elbows straight up towards the sky. Lift head, neck, and chest. This is a version of frog. Good. And so I'm not as concerned with the stretch of the quads, although that's helpful. I really want you to feel that stretch of your shoulders. So hug your upper arms towards each other. Keep those thighs down. Focus on, can I bend my elbows and lift my chest from my back? Good, Kristen. Good. So Calliope, same thing. You just want to lift up and really feel that you're working from the back. Press those thighs down. Good. And then release. Nice job, you guys. Take the feet back behind you. Good. Stretch your arms out wide. Both arms can go out wide, straight out from your shoulders. So your right arm is extended out wide. You're going to start to roll onto your right hip. So this is simulating like we would do this stretch on the wall. So the arm's going to be reaching back behind you. Start to roll onto your right hip. The arm's going to be back behind you. Good. You can step your left foot forward if you need, if that makes it a little easier. You can keep your left hand on the floor in front of you for balance. Good. But again, we want to open through the shoulder joint. Good. So breathe nice and deep. Good, you guys. I've often heard it said that eagle pose, because it involves a lot of squeezing, right? You're squeezing into your thigh creases, you're squeezing into your elbow joints, your shoulders, that there's this great quality of the squeezing is incredibly helpful. And then when you release, it's basically like a surge of, new blood and new fluid, like it flushes everything out of the joints. But start with those long breaths. Good. And then slowly come back to center. Come back towards your belly, please. Stretch your left arm out wide again. You're going to go to the other side. Again, try to find where it is angled straight with your shoulder, and then start to turn onto your left hip. Again, right foot can come in front of you. It can come slightly behind you if you need, but you're trying to get onto the side of that left hip. Good. Right hand can be in front of you for balance. Again, don't pull yourself in a way that feels like it's not helpful, right? Preserving quality is that you have to go to the point that is sustainable, that's creating an effect, but that's not creating harm. Good. And remember, this is a position that you can do using a wall instead of doing it on the floor. But I never assume that everyone has wall space, so. Nice, you guys. Eagle is also that symbol of freedom. In the stories, the eagle, Garuda, he finds that his greatest purpose in life is trying to free his mother from a bet that she lost, right? Literally freeing her from bondage, a life of bondage. Bring yourself back to center, please. Good. Bring your forearms underneath you. So elbows underneath your shoulders. Press up into Sphinx Pose for a moment. So press into your forearms. And again, press down and drag back on the arms. So I want you to feel the sensation of pulling the arms into the shoulder socket and lifting your chest up and between the arms, right? This is big because when we go into that cross of the arms in order to do the Garudasana arms, is what we usually do is we collapse the chest. So you should still feel, even with your arms crossed in that position, this sensation of lifting your chest from the back body to the front. So I want you to memorize this feeling that I can pull my arms into my shoulder socket and lift my chest up, because that's what you're going to do even when your arms are crossed, right? So memorize this sensation, pulling the arms in order to widen the chest. Good. And then release your forehead back to the floor, please. Walk the hands back, press back to downward facing dog. And again, if you haven't done this style of class with me before, I do less choreography, less focus on how you get from one pose to the other. I just want to do poses that are helpful for where we're going. Left leg up and back behind you, down dog split. Good. Nice. Bend the knee for a moment. So you can notice if your knee is pointing straight down, right? If it's in line with your hip, point it straight down. Because again, that's working that rotation on that outer hip. If your outer hip is tight, it's going to want to fly up. Bring that left hip rotating down. It's going to challenge your right hip. That's okay. Good. Now maintain that. Press that left heel up towards the ceiling with the knee bent. Yeah, so you find the strength of your thigh and your hamstring. Then straighten the leg and don't let it drop. Keep it just as lifted. I know. Navel in, ribs in. Now stack the left hip on top of the right. Good. Keep equal weight on your hands. So you're not leaning all into one side. You're trying to keep your chest parallel to the floor. It's just the hip that's opening. So left armpit pulls down and wide. Good. Lift that inner thigh, pull that right heel in towards the midline. That's your supporting heel. Good. That's it, Kristen. And then scoop your belly, turn your left toes back down to the floor. Nice. And then step the left foot between the hands, lunge. Good. Inhale the arms up, high lunge. Again, cross the wrist overhead. If you can remember which one you had in front before, put the other one in front. If you're not sure, whatever your instinct is to do, do the opposite. And then turn the palms towards each other. Press the palms against each other. Bend your elbows wide. This is the same action that you're doing in Garudasana arms, where you have the pressing here of the hands instead of the forearms, but you're pressing in one direction and pulling wide with the other. So draw those armpits down, lift your chest, draw your throat back. Now draw your arms back, elbows back, wrists back, more towards the top of your head. Good. And still steady in those legs. Lift the front of your pelvis. Good. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Bend your elbows wide. Yeah. Nice, Calliope. And then release the arms. Inhale them up. Good. And then hands down to the floor. Nice job. Right hand touches down. Left arm to the sky. Spinal twist. Don't let your hips sway out to the side. So right hip goes wider to the right, Sarah. A little bit more, Jessica. There you go. And then that left hand or that left arm start to make circles. Start to circle the shoulder. Circle the arm in the shoulder socket. And yeah, I am choosing poses that require you to hold steady with the big muscles of your legs, because guess what you have to do in Eagle? You've got to hold yourself with the big muscles of your legs, right? One leg, it's like a one-legged chair pose. So I could have had you do just a ton of chair. Keep that in mind. Good. Arms straight up back to the sky, please. Good. Bend that left elbow and draw back. So as you're drawing back, make a claw with that hand so that there's energy in your whole arm all the way into the fingers. Pull down like you're going to draw that left elbow down into your left rib cage and you're pulling on a rope or you're pulling on a bar. Good. So pull it down and lift and open your chest. Good. Pull back. So Lydia, have your hand more towards the top of your head. So instead of reaching back, yeah, you got it. That's exactly it. Nice. And then release that hand down to the floor. Good, you guys. Drop the back knee. Bring your right hip back on top of that knee. Take your left leg forward to straight Ardha Hanumanasana. You're up on the heel. Good. And then walk your hands forward a little bit more. Again, sending the top of your pelvis tipping forward so that your inner thighs and your tailbone go back. Good. Again, there's a lot of extension that happens through the back body in Eagle Pose. It's the reaching of the spine, length of your spine. So if the pelvis is tight, that's going to pull you into a rounded position. If the shoulders are tight, it's going to pull you into a rounded position. And there is that conversation that says sometimes we do Eagle with the idea that we're bringing the elbows forward to the knees. That's not necessarily the traditional, right? That's a variation. Eagle is actually upright. It's a spine, right? Straight on top of itself, shoulders and hips in line. So that's what we're aiming for, is the ability to go from one to the other. Good. Drag that front heel back a little bit more. Again, I want you to focus on that sensation. What is your outer thigh doing? Are your hips in line with each other? Good. And then drag that heel back. Please come back to a lunge and then step back downward facing dog. Good. Yeah, slide forward to plank pose. Lower down slow, coming through knees first if you need. Yep. Point the toes back behind you. Stretch your arms reaching back towards your feet. Good. Palms pointing down, fingers pointing down. Good. Press through the front of your pelvis. Float your legs up off the floor for Locust Pose. And then lift head, neck, and chest as well. So again, talking about that strength of your spine. Float your arms up as well. Good. I want you to have that sensation like someone is pulling on your ankles and they're pulling on your armpits in opposite directions. So shrug those shoulders up towards your ears. Yep. Now bring your ribs forward. Feel like you're pulling your ribs forward to balance that. And now press through the top of your head. Yeah. Good, you guys. And now bend your knees, kick your heels in. Don't reach for the ankles, just kick your heels in. Good. And lift your arms a little higher, like you're going to reach for your ankles, but don't. Squeeze. Yeah. Good, you guys. And then release everything. Nice job. Press up to hands and knees. Come back, child's pose. You can either keep the knees facing straight ahead like we did before, or go for the more usual way that we do child's pose with the knees slightly wide. Good. So an awareness, right? With your knees slightly wide, what you're creating is a little bit of external rotation on your hips. For most of us, that is more comfortable. But to have truly open and flexible hips, to truly open and flexible pelvis, internal rotation is actually more helpful for that. But it's not what our habit is. Good. Walk yourself back up, please. And then come onto your butt. Take your feet out in front of you. Yep, onto your butt, feet out in front of you. Good. Bend your knees. Take your feet as wide as your mat. So your knees are bent, feet planted as wide as your mat. Drop both knees to the right. Yep. And then you're walking your torso in that same direction. So walk around to the right until you can come onto your forearms. You're going to be facing the back of your mat. Yep. Keep walking to the right until you can come to rest on your forearms, chest facing the floor as much as you can. Good. Knees dropping to the right. There you go. So again, we're stretching side body here. We're getting, you got it, Lydia, you're right. Just drop down onto your forearms. Good. Side body here, outer hip and thigh. Good. And that left leg, what that left leg is doing here is beginning to get into internal rotation. So even here, can you narrow those front hip points? You actually want to try and draw that top of that left hip slightly in and forward. Good. I know this pose is a lot more fun to do when you're just laying on a bolster doing it. Nice. So breathe into your back, your lower spine across the pelvis, your upper spine across the shoulders. Nice. And there's also this story that Garuda is in a constant battle with snakes, constant battle with the Nagas. And the Nagas they're not evil, but they're described as, you know, they tricked his mother into a life of servitude. So there are all those sorts of bits and pieces of us that maybe get us into trouble. There's the alarm. Take one more breath on this side. And then you're going to bring yourself back up to center, please. So press back up onto your hands. Come back onto your seat facing the front of your mat. Good. And then you're going to go to the other side. So the knees are bent, feet as wide as your mat. Drop your knees to the left. And then walk your torso around until you can, again, come onto your forearms facing the back of your mat. Try not to relax completely. So I want you to almost be using your upper body like you're still in Sphinx Pose. So you're still pressing into your forearms. You're keeping an awakeness to your upper back. Good. Because that's going to help continue to create that openness. And it doesn't always have to be forceful. That's the thing. It's just keeping the muscles awake and breathing as deeply as you can will start to make space in the upper back. Our challenge is that most of these big muscles in our back and our shoulders is we don't usually engage them during the day. They stay tense, but they don't get engaged. They don't do any useful work. So putting them in a position where they work a little bit and then breathing is you're actually creating a sense of normalcy, that those muscles can be engaged, but not in a stressful way. That metaphor of all the snakes, like I was starting to say, are those thought patterns, those bits and pieces of things that keep us in bondage. So maybe it's wisdom that's not fully understood. In the Buddhist tradition, it would almost be, they would say that it's, you know, the parts of you that haven't been enlightened yet. They haven't turned to Buddha yet. So there's that constant energy of the preservingness of you is able to devour, is able to ingest those parts of you that don't make sense or that keep you stuck. And it becomes part of that energy that, what, carries you instead of something that binds you. Walk yourself back up to center. Good. Feet forward, scoot forward a little bit, come on down to your backs. Yay. Good. And then take your right ankle onto your left thigh, please. Lift your left shin parallel to the floor. Good. Reach through to hold your left thigh, or your right thigh, sorry. So what did I say? Right ankle on top of left thigh, right? So Kristen, switch. That's what happens. I look at one window and I'm like, what are they doing? Right ankle on left thigh, you're holding your left thigh. Good. And I want you to squeeze in. Yeah, so draw that knee in as far as it will go. Flex both feet. Draw that thigh in as far as it will go. A little bit more weight onto the left side of your low back. There you go. Good. And then keep that squeeze. You're pulling that thigh in, but now press out through your left heel. Keep the knee bent, but press outward with the heel. Scoop your belly and try to press the lowest space of your low back down to the floor while you're pulling the thigh in. Good. So this is almost simulating, again, that energy of when you bring the elbows forward towards your knees, is it should be that there's this lengthening happening of your spine, not a collapsing. Good. One more breath, drag in and push out. Good, and then release your hold on the thigh. Take your right thigh all the way on top of your left. So your knees stack on top of each other. Separate your feet, reach for your ankles or your shins. So separate the feet, Lydia. There you go. You got it, so the knees stack. Yep, right where you were, right thigh on top of left. Put them on top of each other, yep. Just move your feet wide. That's it, yep, and then reach for your ankles, good. And then holding your feet or your ankles, again, this is working that internal rotation. I want you to really roll your thighs in as though that kind of cartoony, I have to pee, what do I do, right? You squeeze your inner thighs in, so do that. Good, and then draw those knees deeper in towards your chest, squeeze them in, and again, press out through your sit bone. So press your lowest part of your sacrum down to the floor from your low belly muscles, do that. Good. And then even though your feet are wide, squeeze your feet towards each other just a little bit so you engage again, feel that outer thigh wake up. Awesome. Good, and then release the feet, squeeze your shins together now, so keep the knees crossed, just squeeze your shins together. Good, don't cross the ankles, just squeeze the shins, squeeze the thighs. Take your arms out wide, letter T. Good. Keep that rib cage rooted down to the floor. Start to push your heels out a little further away from your belly. So move the knees away from the belly. Good, extend out, parallel with the floor still. Just start to straighten the legs out. So again, you challenge that lower back. Good, Jessica, don't go any further than that. And then using your low belly, bring your knees back in towards your chest. Squeeze in. Be gentle with it, because if you clench too hard here, you'll cramp. Stretch the legs out forward just a little bit again, so you find your low back. Good, and then using, again, keep those shins squeezing together. Belly muscles, draw the knees in towards your chest. Good, one more time like that. Extend the legs slightly forward. Nice, keep your ribs down. And then using the lower abdominals, squeeze in, press the shins against each other. So you're continuously working that internal rotation of the legs. Good, and then unwind, please. Take your knees wide into happy baby for a breath. Good, reaching for the ankles or the insteps so you can bring the soles of the feet facing up towards the ceiling. Yeah, again, if you don't put the feet up towards the ceiling, you don't have the same angle on your legs, so don't skip that. Good. And then release, please, and you're going into the cross on the other side. So left ankle on top of right thigh, yes. Lift your right shin parallel to the floor, reach through to hold the right thigh, flexing both feet, and then start to really pull that right thigh in towards your belly a lot. So pull it in as far as it will go. Good, a little bit more weight onto that right side of your low back. So you're leaning to the right just a little bit so that you find a more balanced pelvis. And then once you're squeezed in as far as the legs will go, press out through that heel, pressing against your hands. Good, and try to scoop your low belly and press the lowest place of your sacrum down to the floor. So what we're doing here is we're trying to find more extension through the lower back, more space in the lower back while also stretching the hips. Good. Nice. So again, my focus for you is on your lower back. So how you practice every position makes a difference where your effort is applied. It's part of Eagle as well. His effort was applied towards saving somebody else. Selfless acts creates different results. So how you practice, if you're practicing in a harsh way, you will create a result that maybe creates pain for yourself. Not recommended. Good. Release that hold, please. Take the left thigh all the way on top of the right. So knees come together, separate the feet first. So feet go wide, reach for your ankles or your shins. Again, this is a really easy pose to start to understand what internal rotation is, because that's what you're doing, right? That rolling in of the thighs. Good. So it's like the first half of eagle legs, right? The internal rotation. So you can feel it a lot with your feet wide. Scoop your low belly, press your low back down to the floor, and then squeeze your feet towards each other. Good. And just feel what that does. You keep your feet wide, but you squeeze your feet towards each other. And what does that feel like on the outside of the legs? What does that do to the lower back? Internal rotation widens the lower back. It makes more space. Now release your feet, squeeze your shins all the way together while still maintaining the connection of the inner thighs. Good. And then arms out wide again. Pressing down through the shoulders, press down through your arms. Keep that full connection of my back body is rooting to the floor. Good. And then extend the legs slightly forward. Find more of your lower back. Challenge the abdominals. Good. And then using your low belly, keep the shins together. Draw your knees in towards your chest. Fold from those hip creases. You got it. Nice, Jessica. And then extend the legs forward again. Again, don't be aggressive with it. They don't have to come completely straight. And then bend the knees back in towards the chest. Again, folding at the thigh creases. Keep your low back rooted to the floor. One more time. Extend the legs forward. Rib cage down. Good. And then squeeze the knees in. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. So if you feel your ribs popping up, you're not alone. Good. And then release, unwind the legs, drop the knees wide into happy baby again for a moment. And that's going to feel like a little bit of relief because now you're stretching the outer hips as opposed to engaging them. It's the beauty of internal rotation is that you actually have to really use your outer hip and thigh. Good. And then draw the knees back in towards your chest, please. Good. Roll on your spine, roll up to sit. Good. Just scoot your butt back so you can take your legs straight out in front of you. Inhale the arms up to the sky. And bow forward, Paschimottanasana. Good. Find something to hold on to, your ankles, your feet, your toes. If you can reach your feet, my suggestion is to reach for the outer edges, so the baby toe edges of your feet. Good. And really send your pelvis moving back. Root those thighs down towards the floor. Lift your chest, lengthen, so get long, straight arms wherever you're holding. And then as you exhale, again, bend your elbows wide, chest wide as you fold forward again. So again, you're extending, like you're gonna pull your heart forward between your bent elbows, between your arms. Kind of like that, I don't know, Hulk Hogan when he rips his shirt open, old wrestling. Yeah, that open. Good. And then slowly release, come on out. Good. So the reason for holding your baby toe side is that you can pull that back and get more of a stretch in your outer hip and thigh. All right. Cross the ankles, roll forward, hands and knees. Come into down dog. Good. And then start to walk your feet forward to your hands. Nice. Feet underneath your hips, bend your knees, send your sit bones back into chair, but keep your hands on the floor for a moment. Yep, so hands on the floor or blocks. If you can't reach the floor, put your hands on blocks, but drop your hips low. Good. And then scoop into that low space of your belly, round your back, narrow your hip points, like you're already rotating inward. Good. And now maintain that, start to stretch your arms, your torso straight forward. So parallel to the floor, pause there. Good. Scooping around that low back, keep your hips just as low, maybe even drop them lower. Narrow those hip points and then extend your back up, 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 up into chair. Ribs in, butt down. Yeah, nice Calliope, nice Mark, good Kristen, good Sarah, good everybody. And then come all the way up to stand and reach long through your spine, extend, pull your armpits up away from your hips. Nice. And then release, please. Good. Really good, you guys. So grab your block. So I want you to remember that feeling too, right? That length of your spine, that pulling through your hips and through your chest in opposite directions. You're doing that in eagle, okay? So don't forget that. When you get into eagle, don't go into that, oh, I pop my butt back and push my ribs forward, losing the point. So place your block flat on the floor. It's longwise next to your left foot. Yep. Good. Yeah, you can face forward, Steve. That'll make sense. And then place the block on the outside flat of your left foot. Good. So this is my favorite variation of eagle for really working the energy of your legs without worrying about the balance right away. So bring your right knee up in towards your chest. Yep, right knee up, squeeze it in. Use your hands, squeeze it in. As you squeeze that knee in, push your shin back against your hands and push your butt back like there's a wall behind you. So you're pushing your shin forward, but you're pulling your butt back. And then scoop your belly, lift your chest higher. Good, so don't stand on the block, Steve. Just have it next to your foot. There you go, good. Now cross that right thigh on top of your left thigh. Bend your left knee back into that chair pose until your right foot posts on the block. Press your shins together as much as you can, but your right toes are gonna rest on the block. Now you can bend your left knee a lot without worrying about balancing because you've got that block to steady you. Squeeze the inner thighs towards each other, narrow those hip points, send your butt back, and then scoop your belly, send your arms to the sky, interlace your fingers, maybe press your heels out, and press the heels of the hands out. Good. And then that same energy of draw your ribs back, drop your butt, lift your chest higher towards vertical, drop into your feet, higher towards vertical, drop into your feet, ribs back, chest back, more, Mark. Bend your left knee more, bend both knees more. Bend your left knee, more. Bend, bend, bend. I know. Good, you guys. And then come all the way back up to stand. How'd that feel on your back? I know you can't answer. But that feeling of really pulling long through your spine that's what you want to have, because that's the energy that really sustains your life. It's not your extremities, right? It's that power that's there in the core of the body, the core of your spine. So whatever flexibility there is in your arms and your legs doesn't mean very much if it's not integrated with a strong spine, right? So eagle pose is really about rotating everything in back to that center place. So try the other side. Move your block towards the outside of your right foot now. Good. Baby toe side. Bring the left knee up in towards your chest. Squeeze the knee in. As you squeeze that knee in, press your shin forward against your hands, press your butt back, top of your right thigh back. Good. And chest lifts, lifts, lifts. So already you're finding this is how I pull my spine in two directions. Good. Now cross that left leg on top of your right. Bend your right knee a lot until your left toes find the block. Keep trying to press your shins against each other, but narrow those hip points in. So you're broadening your lower back, even if that's the way you need to think of it. How do I get my lower back to be more broad, more wide? Pull those hip points forward and then arms to the sky. Good. And either keep them there or you could take them behind your head if that helps you feel this better. But I like the arms up so that you have that full extension. Draw your low belly in, drop your butt lower. You got to bend that left knee a lot. Right knee a lot. Sorry, you got to bend both knees a lot. But standing knee bends a lot. Lift your chest. Get vertical. Pull your chest back, back, back. Shoulders back, back, back. And then the more you go back with your shoulders, you've got to lift that front low belly. Bend your right knee more and drop low. Squeeze. Good. Right hip pulls a little bit in towards the midline, Kristen. Swivel your hips. Yep, there you go. And then come all the way back out. Nice, you guys. If that felt like a ton of work, good job. Eagle is a ton of work. Grab your strap, please. Good. And then come to a seated position. So you can come back to Virasana if you'd like. So resting on the knees, sitting back between the heels or on a block, or you can come to a cross-legged seat if that works better for you, but come down to a seat for a moment with your strap. So now you worked in isolation, right? The lower body, the leg energy of eagle. So now we want to just do the last bit of opening up for the upper body as well. Because it's a different story, right? You can just do the legs and you're like, all right, I got it. Then you bring the upper body into it and your brain short circuits and says, no freaking way. You can't do both. So take the strap out in front of you. A little wider than shoulder width, just nice and taut. So you're holding a nice long length of strap. Good. And you're going to keep that nice long length of strap. Keep your spine nice and neutral. So draw your front rib cage in, drop your seat. Already, if you're arching your lower back here, you're restricting your spine. So draw back. Get into that wideness of your pelvis. Drop your sit bones. And then keeping the arms straight, keeping the strap taut, you're going to inhale the arms straight up overhead. And then keeping the arms straight all the way back behind you. Rotate the shoulders all the way back. All the way back. Give yourself as much room on the strap as you need. There you go. And then reverse it. Inhale the strap all the way from the back up and exhale it forward. And continue like that a couple of times, watching that as you inhale the strap up, you're not pushing your ribs forward. And as that strap comes down back behind you, you're especially not pushing your ribs forward. Yeah. Even if you can't go all the way back, that's fine. You go to the point that is useful, that your arms allow, and then you come back up and forward again. Good. The idea is not to force rotation, but it's to wake up those muscles that maybe have not had to move in this forward and back action in forever. So again, a simple exercise to help open the chest, because the chest is what is, again, remaining open when we cross the arms. So the expansiveness, what stays expanded, even though you are wrapping in towards the middle. That reservoir of faith, that reservoir of strength that never diminishes because of what's going on outside. Our awareness of it diminishes, but it's never less because of what's happening outside. Good. Next time your strap comes forward, please. Actually, bring the strap back up overhead for a moment. And I want you to just stay there for a second, and I want you to just pull. Pull, pull, pull on the strap. And then bend your elbows. Again, like that pull-up bar, but keep pulling. So bend the elbows and lift your chest. Good. And then straighten the arms, but still pulling on the strap. Good. And then bend the elbows and lift your chest. Good. And then straighten the arms. And one more time, bend the elbows wide and lift the chest. Feel the back working. And then stretch the arms up. Good. Now place the strap to the side. Stay seated. Bring your arms back out wide. Cross your right arm in front of your chest. Wrap your left arm just this way, so just above the elbow. So you're just hooking the left arm around the length of your right arm. So it's not a full eagle wrap. Your right arm is still extended straight. Do it again. Right arm across the chest. Left arm hooks. There you go. So Lydia, just keep extending that right arm straight. Yep. So the right elbow should not be bent at all, you guys. It should be continuing to reach. Good, because that's still the energy of eagle, right? Is you're reaching. So when you go into that wrap of the forearms, you don't want to bend the elbow and collapse in the shoulder. So keep your shoulder lifted. Maybe don't pull so hard, Lydia. So you can even just use the hand if hooking the elbow doesn't work. Good. You don't want to lose that extension though through the arm. Now, while you're there, try to pull your arm back into your shoulder socket, your right arm into your shoulder socket, and lift your chest again. and pull your ribs in. Ah. Good. Now extend the arms back out wide again. Do the other side. Take the left arm across the body. Hook the right arm underneath. So again, wrapping around the upper arm just above the elbow is where it comes on me, but it can be elsewhere. But you're looking for that extension. You keep reaching through your left fingertips. And then try to pull that left arm back into the shoulder socket and lift your chest up into your arms. Good. Pull your armpits back towards each other. Soften your ribs in. Drop your seat. Good. You got it, Lydia. You're doing it right. Good. And then stretch the arms out again. Nice. Cross the right arm in front of your chest again. Hook the left arm around underneath. Find that same extension. And now just bend your right elbow and press the forearms against each other. Yep, so that full eagle wrap. Don't clench the fingers, please. You can press the hands against each other. Backs of the hands are great if that full rotation of palm to palm isn't working. Now pull your armpits back, lift your chest. Good, so you're pressing the forearms against each other and drawing your armpits back. There should be a spaciousness at the front of your chest, and then draw your ribs in. Good, lift your elbows a little higher in space. Don't let those hands fall onto your face. Don't lean back, don't arch back. And then release, take your arms out wide. Good, so there's the squeezing, but the squeezing should be a hug. Try the other side. Left arm crosses in front of your chest. Wrap the right arm underneath, so just pause there. Already start to pull that right armpit back. And then bend the left elbow, press the forearms together, maybe the palms, maybe the backs of the hands, whatever rotation happens there. And then draw your armpits back, almost like you're leaning back in space. Relax back. Bring your spine in line, shoulders on top of hips. Good, and a long throat. Ribs soften in. Armpits pull back. It's just a hug of your forearms that's holding them there. So it's not a clenching of your shoulders. Squeeze of your forearms. Everything else is widening. Good. There's that focused attention and everything else is infinite. It's also what we call dharana, right? When the mind comes into that one pointed moment before it enters meditation. Good, stretch the arms out and wide. Nice job. Take your fingertips down to the floor again, walk them back behind you. Again, fingers can point away from you if you'd like, or towards the heels, whichever works better. So walk your hands back. Arms can be as wide as you want. Don't come down onto your forearms though. I don't want you to go into that full back bend. I want you to keep your arms straight. Yeah, just walk your hands back behind you with the arms straight. Stay up on your fingertips. Good, so again, so it's a lifting of the chest. It's a pushing into the arms, the length of the arms to lift the chest. Good. Beautiful. And then walk yourself back up, please. Nice job. Okay, find your way up to stand. To the big finale. Big finale, doing a pose. You're like, I do this pose every other class. Big finale. Do it with full awareness. If you want to use the block underneath your foot like you did in that first variation, you are welcome to do it. Again, I love it as a way to get you confident in bending as deeply into your legs as you're able to. It's the crazy thing. It's not like you're not capable of doing it without the block, but your mind is like, I don't know how to balance that way. So the block is a good confidence booster. Right, so you all put the block alongside your different foot. Put it alongside your left foot, please. Good, and then lift your right knee up and towards your chest, just so we're all on the same side. Again, squeeze that knee in, push the shin against your hand, push your butt back. Good, so you start with the longest spine you can get, and then cross that right thigh on top of your left. As you bend your left knee, you press the shins against each other. That foot will find the block, or again, you're just squeezing. And then arms wide. Left arm comes on top of right. So it's the opposite arm on top as the leg that's on top. So left arm on top of right. Again, you're reaching as long as you can. And then as the elbows bend, you press your forearms together, pull your armpits back. Now lift your chest up, shoulders up, crown of your head up, drop your tail. Press into those outer shins. Scoop that low space of your belly and narrow your hip points. If your thighs are squeezing like mad, bring it more into your shins. Good, Calliope. Really nice, you guys. Good, Jessica. Good. Drop a little lower. Lift your chest. Bring yourself back like you're leaning against the wall. And then unwind. Awesome. Oh. And that's the moment, right? Is you just compressed all of those joints. You squeezed in so much. And then when you let go, it's like they get a flush. Like you're brand new. Try the other side. Move your block to the outside of your right foot. Bring your left knee up in towards your chest. Good. Squeeze it in. Send the top of your right thigh back, butt back as you push your shin forward. Good. That's to help stabilize your standing leg, right? So that's creating balance. Don't lose any of that. Cross your left thigh on top of your right. Bend that right knee a lot. Don't let your hips swivel, right? It's a square pelvis. So you have to actually resist that desire to swing everything over to the right. Good. So you're pressing the shins against each other. Scoop your belly. Lift your shoulders as high as you can. Chest up. Arms wide. Right arm comes on top of left. And you're pressing the forearms against each other. And then drawing your armpits back. Lift your chest. Good. The spiraling energy, the two opposing forces in you, light and dark, good and evil, enlightened, ignorant, spiraling together. They become one and the same. Good. Lift your shoulders. Drop your butt. Like you're leaning into a wall behind you. It's not you supporting you. That preserving energy is not you doing all the work. Lean back. Good. And then unwind. Nice, you guys. And that was a good hold. Really good. Beautiful. Inhale the arms to the sky. Exhale, bow forward. Wow. Hang for a moment. Let the knees bend. Hold opposite elbows if you'd like. Good. And then bring your hands to the floor, please. Step yourself back, downward facing dog. Turn back to the side of your mat, those of you who are facing the other way. Good. Slide forward to plank, lower down onto your belly. And flip over onto your back. Maybe a little bit of choreography for you. I could have just said get down on your back. Good, bend your knees, please. Plant your feet just for a couple of breaths. Inhale, lift your hips up into bridge as you take your arms up overhead. So inhaling, lifting the hips, lifting the arms up. Let your hands find the floor above your head. And then exhale, release your hips, release your arms back to where you started. Just a couple of times. Again, if there was over clenching or over engagement anywhere, right? This is an opportunity to just let the spine again flex and move. Right? The energy that saves you, that is tireless. How do we embody it? It's a spiraling in of everything that has dispersed, that we've drawn out of ourselves from. So where the outside world is pulling you, you pull yourself back in. That's what gives the eagle the strength to overcome. And it doesn't matter how many snakes there are. For centuries, he's been devouring snakes and he will continue to. That's his vow. But it's because of his selflessness that Vishnu asked him to be his vehicle. Next time your hips come to the floor, just stop and rest there. Good. Bringing the feet wide, letting the knees drop to the right and to the left, windshield wiper the legs. Let the arms go out wide if they'd like. Good, maybe pausing when the knees come to the right. If you'd like to stay there, you can stack the right heel on top of the left knee or the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Better way to say it. If that doesn't feel good, feel free to leave that out. If you would rather have your knees stacked on top of each other, you're welcome to do that also. Good. And then bring the feet back to center, please. Letting the knees drop wide to the left. Again, starting with the feet wide. Left ankles Can step onto right knee, right thigh above the knee, or you can stay where you are. The eagle, the navigator of that infinite space, the one that is able to focus the energy and the power of that vastness into action. And we hope selfless action, useful action, action that is meant to relieve suffering, bring enlightenment, make a better world. But at least it puts you back into an awareness that that reservoir of strength and resilience and peace and compassion and everything that really is going to carry you through this life is you already have it. Come back to center, please. Hug your knees in towards your chest, squeeze, forehead up to meet your knees. And then release the legs out in front of you, arms alongside you, palms facing up, Shavasana. Eagle's vision sees the vastness, the infiniteness of everything. And yet it's able to pick out the individual bits and pieces that hold us back, all those snakes. You can see it from high up in the sky. Find your own blue sky. Very gently bring the awareness back to your breath. And let your body begin to stretch and move in the ways that serve it well. And as you're ready, draw your knees in towards your chest. Roll to your right side. And take a moment there before you begin to push the floor away. Come back to an upright seated position. Maybe pause for a moment, feeling the wideness of your pelvis, letting the hands rest on the knees or the thighs, palms face up. And feel the wideness of your chest and just lift through your spine. So pull up through the crown of your head. Let your ribs soften back like there's a wall behind you, like you're leaning into something. And it's the energy of the eagle pose. It says that there's this reservoir, there's an energy that holds you, that preserves, sustains. And it's not you having to do it yourself. But when we tap into that bigness and we focus it, we become incredibly powerful, incredibly capable, beyond our expectations, beyond our imagination. So the eagle is that. Can you bring that vastness into focus? And can you remember that that reservoir of strength, resilience, compassion, peace, tranquility, faith, it's in you already. And it's only when we ignore it or it gets dispersed with our worry and our doubts and our fear that we feel like we're powerless. So you invite it back in, you pull it back into the center of you. Go back to that reservoir. And that will sustain you through every obstacle, every moment when you have no idea what's going to come next. And if you can handle it, you will. Either stay here or bring the hands together in front of your heart. We'll close with the sound of Om. Deep breath in. Sliding the thumbs up to the space between the eyebrows. Namaste, everybody. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week until I see you again. I am open to, if you have requests for what you want to do, next week or in coming weeks, let me know. Send me a text or send me a message or something like that. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep picking what I feel like doing.